Okay, I'm going to attempt a video, or actually probably a little bit of a video series here on the conversion that I did on my square body Chevy pickup here from a long wheelbase long box pickup to a short box. This should apply fairly close to anything from 73 to 87, and actually some of this will actually apply. It doesn't really matter what color or kind of pickup you got, but this critter here that I'm working on is an 83 K30 crew cab. Bought the pickup a couple of years ago. Pretty nice straight old pickup, but it needed a paint job, and the original 8-foot bed that was on this guy just was not in very good shape. So it was either spend a bunch of money on the original bed or spend a bunch of money on a replacement bed for it. So plan A that I come up with, I went ahead and painted the pickup, the front end of it, and then just bought an aluminum flatbed to put on it. It already had these aluminum tread plate running boards, which I wasn't terribly thrilled with, but they kind of matched the flatbed well. So I tried that first, and it turned out, it looked okay, but I guess it just didn't really pop for me like I was hoping it would. So that was when I kind of started researching this whole short box conversion for these things. I really like the looks of the pictures I seen online with them, so I got to looking at that, and it was just about the time I was digging into that and researching that I come across somebody that had, it was actually a whole pickup that had this box on it, that he didn't want to sell just the box off of it, but it was very reasonably priced. No engine, no training, just kind of a rolling chassis with this box. So I just bought the whole thing, and it has ended up being kind of handy because I've actually had the pickup that this came off of for the sake of taking measurements and things like that. So I think that's going to end up being a pretty good deal. Hopefully I don't find any sort of surprises in the under that primer or anything like that, but I think it's going to be a pretty good setup. So first order of business, I guess, and this was the thing that probably gave me the biggest headache with this whole thing, is what cut to use when I'm gonna cut the frame up here. And probably what I'm gonna do is, rather than making this a big old long drawn out thing covering everything I did here, I'm probably gonna maybe do this in about 3 different videos. The first one, I'm just gonna concentrate on a little bit of the research I did on the different cuts and options there. So basically I looked into 3 different ones. There was actually a fourth, but I kind of discounted the fourth one. First one was the Z cut, where you kind of offset both sides when you cut this out of here, and then it overlaps when you put it together. Supposed to be a real good strong cut. Second one is a 45-degree cut, where you just run a 45-degree angle and take your frame out. And then the third cut seemed like the black sheep of the family was just the straight 90-degree straight down cut. Everybody seemed to have issues with it, or a lot of people, on the strength of that cut. So, and then there was a fourth one. I don't honestly even know what it's called. I didn't pay too much attention to it, but I don't know, to me it kind of looked like a jigsaw puzzle. You had a little nub stuck out on one side and then a cradle on the other side. For me, it looked hard to both measure, draw out, cut, and weld, so I just kind of discounted that one. So anyway, I kind of had problems deciding what I wanted to do. For every night I'd get on the internet and make up my mind what I was going to do, the next night I would read how that was just never going to work and we needed to do something different. So I kind of was creating myself a bunch of undue stress over the whole thing. So what I did is I've actually got a semi-local guy here who has a welding shop / frame shop, truck shop type thing. And over the years, he kind of specializes in truck frames. He extends semi-tractors out, makes grain trucks, builds gravel trucks, rollbacks, that kind of thing. And so he's done a bunch of this stuff. And so I called him and asked him, told him what I had going on here, and just asked his advice. And he sort of surprised me, because he actually said his least favorite of all the cuts was the Z cut. And of course that surprised me, and I asked him why. And he said he had a couple of reasons, and his first big one was going back together, fitting it. He said it literally took him twice as long to put a truck frame back together when he was using the Z cut. And he said basically what it boils down to is you've got so many different angles and everything that you're trying to get put back together and still get your frame measurements right and everything, and it just took twice as long. And then coupled with that, because of all the different angles, when he would start to weld, he said he had to be really careful about the welds pulling in different directions and actually pulling the frame out of whack in the middle of welding it. So he said the whole thing was just a little bit tricky for him. So, and then on top of that, the other thing he said, I couldn't even begin to tell you how many of these frames and that type of thing he's done, but he did say of all the stuff he's did, he never had an all-and-out failure, but he did have a couple of times when those Z-cuts would come back with a couple little cracks coming off of them. And it didn't seem like it mattered at all how much he radiused, you know, around the corners and on the different angles and that type of thing. Just every once in a while he would get one back that needed a little bit of attention. So with all that in my head, and coming from, you know, word of mouth local guy, I kind of decided I wasn't going to do the Z-cut, which pretty much meant I was just going to do the straight cut. And so I kind of got in here and got to studying that, and then I sort of ran into something that kind of changed my mind on that. Let me see if I can get a light in here. I don't know if you guys can see down in the bottom of that frame there. Hang on, I'm caught here. There we go. Right down on the bottom of this frame here, there's a little whoopie where the frame kind of changes pitch, sort of right in here. And what I was figuring out is, and I actually saw some pictures on the internet where you could see where if you cut that seam straight, you're gonna end up right in that area, or very close to it. And so if you crowd forward with your cut, then the other problem you run into is that gets you real close to this bed hole here for the front hole of the box. And so I didn't like that idea of having to sneak that in there that close to this. I kind of want to leave my weld a little bit built up like it is here. But if you do that, you know, of course, that stringer that goes across that box is about yay wide, and that would have got in the middle of that. So that kind of led me to go to the 45-degree cut, which you can see good here. Starts right here, angles down here, and ends down here. And so that does two things. That avoids this box or this bed bolt right here hole, and then avoids that little whoopie in the frame we were talking about. So that's what I ended up doing after way too much research and changing my mind and messing around. I ended up going with a 45-degree cut on this thing. So I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and end the video, this first one here, and then on number 2 I'm going to get into some of the details about how I went about cutting this thing apart, welding it together, the plates and stuff that I put on the inside, that type of thing. So if this is interesting to you and going to do you some good, just stay tuned, and we'll have a couple more of these videos and go from there. Thank you.